Our reading for today comes from Joshua chapter 1. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, "My servant Moses is dead. Now proceed to cross the Jordan, you and all these people, into the land that I am giving to them, to the Israelites. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness and the Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites to the great sea in the west shall be your territory. No one shall be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall put this people in possession of the land that I swore to their ancestors to give to them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to act in accordance with the law that my servant Moses commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, so that you may be successful wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth. You shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to act in accordance with all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous, and then you shall be successful. I hereby command you, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." So as Pastor Matt said, we had a blast yesterday skiing. But on Friday, it was really, really icy. The sidewalks were just glare ice. And so we're walking along on the sidewalk, and all of a sudden I hear this crash. And I look behind me, and somebody whose last name rhymes with Holland fell down on the sidewalk. And now I had just gotten this new EMT kit that I'm really excited about. I didn't know I was going to put it into use so quickly. So Kurt and I, we tended to our senior pastor here, Pastor Matt, but he is an amazing healer. So the next day we're skiing. Now I'm 38 years old, and Pastor Matt's a little bit older than I am. And even with kind of a busted up shoulder, he was still beating me down the slopes. I mean, this guy can ski as well as Kurt. But Lutzen was just an absolute beautiful place, a great time to ski, a great time to catch up as well, and just a fun time. But Matt is healing well. I'm happy to report. So our text for this morning is Joshua's commissioning for becoming the leader of the Israelites. Moses has just died, and Joshua's taken over, and I bet he was scared out of his mind. In our text for this morning, Joshua is getting his marching orders from God for leading the Israelites into the promised land. In this commissioning that we have, God encourages Joshua and says to him to be strong and courageous. In fact, God must have been really serious, because he tells Joshua this very thing, be strong and courageous, 3 different times in our text. And I kind of wonder whether or not Joshua must have had that deer in the headlights look, given the fact that God had to keep repeating himself. So clearly we can take from our text that God is commanding Joshua to be strong and courageous. And of course, this morning, our Lenten theme, is courage. Now, courage can be a really hard concept to define. And if we were to go around the room, we might have different ways of looking at this whole notion of courage. How would you go about defining courage? Maybe you would give an example of courage, like Superman saving the day, or maybe some daredevil skiing off the side of a cliff. Do you think about a football player crashing through the line in order to score a touchdown? Or maybe you think of someone who's facing a very serious, life-threatening illness. There are a million different ways of defining courage. Recently, I was doing some reading online, and I ran across a parenting blog, And this parenting expert defined courage as having 6 different types. And I think that her work just might help us in figuring out how to define courage. She writes about these different types of courage on her blog, Lion's Whiskers, which of course refers to the cowardly lion on The Wizard of Oz. It's a fabulous blog, and I love the way that she categorizes all of these different types of courage. And she has 6 different types of courage, and they are spiritual courage, moral courage, physical courage, intellectual courage, social courage, and emotional courage. I'd never really thought of courage in such an expansive way before. Now, spiritual courage is being willing to grapple with the difficult spiritual and faith questions in life, and perhaps even taking a stand for one's faith. Moral courage is willing to take a stand in the face of adversity and working to do the right thing in life. Next is physical courage, and this is what we often think of when we think of courage. That's that daredevil skiing off the side of a cliff, or the firefighter running into the burning building, or a police worker or an EMS worker putting their physical self on the line. Next is intellectual courage, and this is the courage that you need to grapple with a difficult concept or idea that challenges you. Social courage is being able to connect with those who are around you and take a risk on being a part of a community. And the last one is emotional courage. And this is the courage to feel the full brunt of the emotions that life will often throw at us. All in all, this parenting coach on the Lion's Whiskers blog does an excellent job of describing courage. And I think that her 6-part definition of courage also fits Joshua pretty darn well as well. Joshua clearly demonstrates spiritual courage as he is following God's call to lead his people. He has moral courage because he's doing the right thing and not backing down. He's following God's call. He clearly has physical courage because there will indeed be some physical danger in his leading this large mass of people into the promised land. Joshua has intellectual courage as he has to deal with the logistics nightmare of organizing all of these people. Can you imagine what that would have been like? And he clearly has social and emotional courage because he has committed himself to being this group's leader. And he knows that because of that, there will be some emotional highs and lows as they make their way into the promised land. So we have described courage and what it looks like. And clearly Joshua is courageous. But we have not talked about where courage comes from. Well, our text can help us with that as well. Our courage comes from God. Listen again to the last verse of our text. Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Our courage does not come from the world, and it does not come from us. Our courage comes from God. The source of our courage comes from the fact that the Lord is our God, and God is with us wherever we go, and God will never leave us. God sealed this promise of never leaving us when he sent his Son into the world to die for our sins and then was raised to new life. It is because of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ that we too will experience new life, and that we too can face each day with a newfound sense of courage. But here's the deal. Let's be honest. I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel as though I have many days in life when I feel like that cowardly lion from The Wizard of Oz, rather than that strong and courageous Joshua. And maybe even you feel that way sometimes. There are days when we don't feel all that emotionally courageous, and we just want to keep everything to ourselves. There are days when we perhaps don't have much spiritual courage, It may even be hard to keep the faith in spite and in face of all of life's challenges. There are also days when we don't have much intellectual courage or physical courage. Now, to be honest, there are some days when all I want to do is just sit on my couch and turn on Netflix and watch a television show or two. Maybe MASH. I absolutely love MASH. Frankly, sometimes having courage can be really tiring if we are to be truly honest. And you know what? It's okay to have those uncourageous days. And I would also contend that I and you are much more courageous than you would ever think, because God made you that way. God made you to be a courageous being. You are courageous by just getting up in the morning and not knowing what the world will throw at you. You are courageous by going to work and working to provide for your family. You're courageous for going to the doctor for those tests to find out just how serious your diagnosis may be. You are courageous for coming to this place, to be in community, to worship with each other, to worship God, and to take a chance on being in relationship with one another. You are courageous by loving your family and loving your neighbor. You are courageous for talking to that stranger just down the block from you. All of you are courageous. You are all courageous to face a world of grief, loss, and suffering. You are all courageous because God made you that way. May you all know that you are courageous human beings. And don't hesitate to grow in your courage that is built on the fact that God will never leave you. Think about how you are courageous in the little things in life and how God is opening you to be courageous in new and exciting ways. After all, you are courageous because God made you that way. It's just a fact. Now, not all of us will lead a large group of people into the promised land like Joshua, but you know there are some days that feel like we are doing that very thing when we feel overwhelmed. Those are the especially tough days of being a human. So remember this. Whether life feels like a large burden, like leading the Israelites into the promised land, or if life is going really well, remember to be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Now, during our offering today, Michelle will be singing a song called If We're Honest by Francesca Battistelli. It is a song that is deep in meaning. And as you listen to the lyrics of the song, I invite you to consider how you are courageous in both little and big ways as well. So be honest with yourself and give yourself credit. You are courageous because God made you that way. That's the honest truth. Amen.
Truth is harder than a lie. The dark seems safer than the light. And everyone has a heart that loves to hide. I'm a mess and so are you. We've built walls nobody can get through. Yeah, it may be hard, but the best thing we could ever do is bring your brokenness and I'll bring mine. 'Cause love can heal what hurt divides, and mercy's waiting on the other side. If we're honest, don't pretend to be something that you're not. Living life afraid of getting caught. There is freedom found when we lay our secrets down at the cross. at the cross. So bring your brokenness and I'll bring mine. 'Cause love can heal what hurt divides, and mercy's waiting on the other side. If we're honest, if we're honest, it would change our lives, it would set us free. It's what we need to be. So bring your brokenness and I'll bring mine. 'Cause love can heal what hurt divides, and mercy's waiting on the other side. If we're honest, if we're honest, if we're honest.